Welcome. My name is Melinda Hart. You are watching Stamping with Hart. Today's video is all about alternate paper pumpkin cards using the July Paper Pumpkin Kit, sharing good thoughts. Now, very quickly, I just want to say there is a free project sheet available for the alternate products in measurements used for the alternate cards. The July kit is no longer available, but if you're interested in the August kit, you would want to sign up by August 10th, and I'll have more information in the description box below. This video is part Facebook Live replay and part pre-recorded video so that I can walk you through the process of designing all of these cards. If you are interested in that free project sheet, you can find that link in the description box below. Okay, and if you like seeing alternate paper pumpkin videos, please be sure to subscribe to my channel or give this video a like or leave me a comment. I always appreciate hearing from you on what you think of the alternate cards. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get into the video now. As you guys are coming on, if you're comfortable, be sure to say hi. Let me know where you're watching from, whether it's live or in the replay. I always love hearing from you. Tonight, we are going to be working with the July Paper Pumpkin Kit. And I'm going to move this block so that I don't get this everywhere, hopefully. We're going to come back to that in a minute. I definitely have ink fingers tonight, but let me show you these first. So these are the original Paper Pumpkin cards from the July kit. So spoiler alert, I mean, by now everybody should have been receiving their boxes and opening up their kits, but these are the cards as designed by Paper Pumpkin. And I've asked you guys in the past, you know, what you think about unboxings or making the original cards. And most of you said you actually like getting right to the alternative cards. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to jump right into the alternative cards, and I'll show you the two cards that we're going to be making. But I think that the July kit is absolutely fabulous. Before I go and jump into what we're going to be doing with the July kit, let me just talk about the August kit really quickly. So in August, Paper Pumpkin is doing the Sweet Sunflowers subscription box. So this is a sneak preview of what the box looks like. There are going to be 2 ink spots in the August kit, which that alone is pretty great. And that is because the sunflower stamp that is going to be in there, and this is what I understand from all of the sneak previews that I've been reading. I haven't seen the whole kit. It's just like, you know, it's the same for me as it is for you with the sneak peeks. But from what I understand, it's going to be like a yellow and a brown ink spot for the sunflower. So it's going to be like a 2-step stamping type thing. At least that's my guess. So the other thing is, they're going to be including these, they're going to be like these gold, they almost look like a honeycomb pattern, layers. So really beautiful stuff. You would have to subscribe by August 10th if you want to get the August Paper Pumpkin Kit. Now, the other thing that I want to say about this is it is celebration right now. And if you like Paper Pumpkin, if you know you want to order several months of Paper Pumpkin, when you do that, when you order a prepaid subscription of either 3 months, 6 months, or 12 months, or your options, you can earn celebration rewards if you do a prepaid subscription, and then you just plug in the code on your Paper Pumpkin account. So if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. This month's envelopes, I just wanted to mention it, actually do not have patterns on the inside, which is something that I often will use for background patterns. And so when I noticed that, I thought, you know what? I mean, of course, you can use your outside envelope for layers or use your envelopes for envelopes. But I thought I'm going to make my own backgrounds tonight. And it turns out that August is watercolor month. So I thought, why not do watercolor for our background, because it doesn't get more water themed than what we're looking at here. So here is the stamp set, lots of really great imagery and sayings, several different fonts here. The ship, I think, is kind of like can't be beat. That is a very cool stamp. We have this fabulous pattern stamp here. We have a seahorse, some coral, a cluster of starfish or stars, just depending. We have our little message for the message in a bottle. We have wishing you all the best. thinking of you, can't wait to see you, sending good thoughts, and I don't know if I already said the seahorse or not, but he's pretty cute too. So those are the stamps that we're working with. The I don't want to say in color, that's not right. The ink spot that is in the July kit is Bermuda Bay. You're going to get your adhesives in your kit. They are providing this twine, and it's great, and you can certainly use it if you want to. I did use it on the original cards, but for the alternate card, I am going to switch it up to Starry Sky twine, and I'm also going to add in the metallic ribbon in Tahitian Tide. So just going to mention that while we're going through the different contents. Now, here are the instructions. You guys know that I absolutely love working with the coordinating colors every month. If you're new here and you don't know that, every month on the back of your paper pumpkin instructions, they'll tell you what the coordinating colors are. And I will always reference those, especially if we're doing backgrounds. If you like to see paper pumpkins alternatives, they have theirs right here. They're all so cute. And then here, let's just get a little bit into what we're working with. So really incredible die cuts this month. I mean, this is a really cool set. If you guys have gotten your July paper pumpkin, let me know what you think about it. This one you can see I've pretty much used up. So let's go to a new one. We'll go to this one here. So you can see there are 3 size die cut bottles. We have these like banner pieces here. We have the sentiment pieces here, and that one has a little punch in it so that we could actually tie it with the twine. This is where I got the idea for the backgrounds. So these were layers that were included in the kit here. And you can see they are embossed here. So almost you can see it looks like a wave pattern. And this is in Fresh Freesia. It looks like it's a little bit faded. And then here we have like, it looks like a partial sky scene and then a partial ocean scene. If you guys can see the embossing on that. And then we have this one here, which is really cool. And again, everything kind of has that little bit of like an aged or a warped look as part of this whole message in a bottle theme here. And when I saw these, I thought, you know what? I think it'll be fun to kind of make my own background, my own watercolor background. Here are some other of the die cuts. So we have some seagulls here. We have another seahorse, different types of coral, our little starfish here. And then we also have these. You could either do the sentiment banners here, or you could do the circle pieces here. Okay, so I'm just going to set these aside. But basically, when I start working with my paper pumpkin alternate ideas, I usually try to take ideas that either come from the kit or, you know, something that just inspires me. And in this case, it was those layers that I was like, I think I should probably do some backgrounds there. So we'll be using some of the pieces from our kit tonight. We're not going to deviate too far from the design, really just about making some fun backgrounds. Okay, so let me show you a little bit more about the backgrounds now. I'm not going to recreate the original paper pumpkin cards in this video. What I'm going to do is focus on the alternates, okay? But you can always let me know in the comments, or you can always message me, email me, and let me know if you would like to see the assembly of the kits, because I'm happy to do that. But I know that Paper Pumpkin, they release a video and all of that lovely stuff. So we'll do alternates. So, I had seen a YouTuber. She's a crafter from another, I think she has her own brand actually. Her name is Christina Werner. I don't know if you guys know her. She's incredibly talented, very different from my style. But she had done a Christmas in July card using this watercolor technique. And I thought, I'm going to try that. So here are the colors that we're going to use. This is what our layer is going to look like. Here's what the finished card looks like compared to the layer. So, and of course, it's always going to vary slightly just depending on how much water or how much color you're using. But you can see the basic concept here of what we're going to do. And it's actually pretty easy to do. If you don't have re-inkers, you could just press your ink pad right onto one of your clear blocks. So definitely up to you. but we're going to go with Balmy Blue, Bermuda Bay. Those two are from the kit. I added Pool Party, Tahitian Tide, Pacific Point, I think is part of the kit. And I added Night of Navy. So like 3 and 3, because I really kind of wanted to keep that kind of ocean color going and just make it gradient and darker as we went along. So I'm going to be using my re-inkers, but you guys can always use your ink pads too. And here is the other version that I did. And with this one, I just did light waves. So you could just see, and I mean, it's just very basic wave pattern here, but it's pretty cute. And then here I just kind of cut on the one wave and tucked the bottle inside and added a few embellishments here. So these aren't too bad, right? They're not too tricky. We're still using all of the decorative elements from the Paper Pumpkin kit. But if you want to get into having some fun with watercolor month, then I would say definitely go for it. There's a lot of very talented artists on YouTube right now doing so many things for watercolor month. So I definitely encourage you to either Google that or check that out, because they're all doing just an incredible job. I had so many ideas when I was looking around. So I'm going to be using our water painters. They come as a set of 3. One of my water painters is like disassembled right now. So let me see if I can kind of pull that together for you. Okay, so there are 3 different sizes here. Let me see if I can screw this on real quick so that you guys can see this properly. And you can see I used my blue with each of these, but I just want you to see the tips. So we have a very fine tip, a middle tip, like a fine tip brush, kind of like a middle size brush. And then we also have this really nice thick brush. Okay, so for the one that's like washed back and forth like this, we're going to use our large brush. And I'm going to kind of go in between the brushes to make the waves, because I couldn't quite find my stride the first time I made it. So we'll see if we can make it again. But I'm just going to set that aside. So when you get the water painters, they're in the annual catalog. They come as a set of 3. I'm just going to be using a clear block, like to kind of, you know, get my ink onto. Make sure you have a protective surface when you're working with watercolor. I'm also going to recommend either a little cup of water, or you can fill the barrels here with water, and then a paper towel or 2, or whatever you use, like whatever type of towel you use, so that you can kind of clean as you go. Now, the one very unusual thing that I haven't used, but I learned this when I was watching Christina, is she actually uses painter's tape to hold down the paper on her mat, which I don't typically do, because even if I do watercolor techniques, they're usually like really minimal. Like they're not kind of like making full sheets like this. So this is going to be fun just to kind of do something a little bit different. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention is they do have these 5x7 watercolor sheets in the annual catalog that you can get for your watercolor. But I'm going to be using something different, because I have a different watercolor pad here. I will have to apologize to Connor later, because this is his. But this is, if you guys have any kind of watercolor paper at home, I understand that the shimmer paper is good for watercoloring. I've used the thick basic white for watercoloring, but I don't know if I would do it with this technique. I haven't tried it yet. So I am going to use watercolor paper, and we do have watercolor paper available in the catalog. So those are kind of the things that I'm going to be bringing into the kit on my own tonight. And then I'll show you some stamp sets. Don't let me forget to show you guys a couple of stamp sets that I think will be good for alternates. One of them is Bottled Happiness, which they said, doing the whole bottle theme with the bottle punch and all of that will go with this set. But I also thought that Hope and Prayer. I thought Hope and Prayer would be really good, because once you run out of the birds, you might like the dove instead. I think the dove could also kind of sort of act as a seagull, or if you have a seagull stamp, just use that. But I love this too, where it says hope anchors the soul, you know, under his wings. So just depending on the theme that you're going for here, I think this could be a really good stamp set. And then also Season of Chic. So of course, when we're doing ocean and sea themes, it's really cool to kind of bring in those elements here of the seashells and things like that. So those were the ones that kind of struck me, but I'm just going to be doing this tonight. All right. I know I've been talking your ears off, so let me go ahead and actually start doing something. Okay, so I am going to switch over to VoiceOver at this point, and just to let you know, at this point, the video is going to be slightly sped up. It's not going to go super fast. It's pretty much going to stay at this pace, but I just find that whenever you're doing a technique that filmed in real time can take a little bit longer, especially because I'm going to be doing so many different color variations. I decided to speed up the video just slightly so that I could get this video in at under an hour. So just, you know, considering whatever it is that you're interested in when you watch these paper pumpkin alternate videos, I'm just going to tell you very quickly, if you're interested in seeing the card assembly, then I would tell you to go to the 40-minute mark. If you really enjoy the watercolor process and you want to see all of the different color combinations and how I made those, then just stay tuned throughout the video. So here, the very first color combination that I did was a variation of blues. And for each color variation that I did a color key, and that color key is going to be available in my free project sheet. It is also going to be available on my blog. You can see the images with the color listings here, but you can see that I started with Balmy Blue. My second color was Pool Party. My third color was Bermuda Bay, which is the hero color of the July kit. And then moving on down the line, our next color here is going to be Tahitian Tide, which is a very, very bright blue, but I did it a little bit more on the softer side with the watercolor element. And then the next color down is going to be Pacific Point. And our last color is going to be Night of Navy. And I absolutely loved this process. I loved this color combination. So here's what I'm going to recommend for anybody who's interested in getting a little bit more into watercoloring or the water painters. So, you know, just being very direct, I have done some light watercoloring, but never, you know, I would not consider myself advanced when it comes to watercolor techniques or anything like that. But I'm always, you know, interested in learning and playing around. And so I did this technique over and over and over again over the last several days. And I would say definitely have a glass of water or, you know, a bowl of water or something near you that you can clean your brushes, especially if you're using the same brush like I did throughout. I basically cleaned my brush in between each color, regardless of the color combination that I did. And if you're doing this side to side, this very easy stripe pattern like I did, it just makes it a little bit faster to go along. Using your clear blocks is great, but if you happen to get too much water on it, I would recommend keeping the clear block even on the protected surface and not on your table, unless you have a glass tabletop, in which case, you know, you could do a very easy cleanup, because I got pretty messy with it and it kind of ran over and, you know, got underneath my block with the colors. So just to let you know about that. You can see here, pulling up the painter's tape. Oh, and let me talk about this really quickly. The Fluid 100 watercolor paper, that is what is available in the Stampin' Up catalog. There are also watercolor pencils, I just wanted to point out, also available in the catalog. If you like really intense color saturation, I recommend using the re-inkers or pressing your ink pad to a clear block and using it that way. The watercolor pencils are beautiful, but they're a little bit more on the subtle side. Now, my experience with using the painter tape overall was wonderful, and I will definitely use that again and again and again. I have a lot of trouble finding tapes that I really like with paper, but I only had one very slight issue with the painter's tape, and I'm not sure if it was because the edge of my paper was already torn. But for the most part, the painter's tape came up and down, no problem. I only had one tiny corner that kind of tore a little bit with my painter's tape. So I absolutely loved using the painter's tape. And like I said, I will use that again and again. Definitely want a protected surface. So definitely put something, you know, something down on your surface that's more than just paper, because your surface is most likely going to get wet. Now here, I want to say I was making this wave pattern, and I just wanted to keep it really simple. If you would like to have a guide for your waves, there is a die in the scallop contour dies that kind of cuts a scalloped edge just on one side of your card or your panel. If you flip that over, it looks like waves, the inverted part of it basically. So you could use that as a guide if you don't want to do this freehand. The other thing that I tried to do was I tried to make sure that the peaks of the waves were in different spots on every layer, just very slightly different, but so that it didn't look like exact, you know. I just kind of wanted it to look like a free flow here. Now I'm doing the exact same color key that I did in the last one, except for the fact that with the waves, it takes up a little more space. So I didn't actually do Night of Navy. So it's the same exact pattern in the same exact order, but the last color ends up being Pacific Point and not Night of Navy. So as I was saying to you guys, I do have a free project sheet available for these paper pumpkin alternates. Now, the July paper pumpkin kit is no longer available if you didn't order it. If you did order it, you can always, you know, you have the possibility of refills. Typically there's a possibility for refills. I haven't officially checked yet, but you could always order refills for your kit if you need them. I really made use out of every piece of this kit. There are some kits that when I get them in the mail, they just set my imagination wild. And this was one of those kits. I just thought this was so fabulous. I loved all of the design, the artwork. I loved the imagery that they gave. And I actually loved the sentiments too. Like every single piece I felt was completely usable. I loved the color combinations. I just really enjoyed everything about this kit. I just think the Paper Pumpkin is doing such a great job with all of their kit themes. And I'm so excited about the August kit too. That's going to be fun. But the reason that I'm mentioning the July kit not being available is because when you get my project sheet, I of course am going to be listing the July Paper Pumpkin kit as part of the products used. But I will also list all of the alternate products that I used with my alternate cards, because I try to use as many elements and design elements of the kit as I can, but sometimes I will pull in additional product when I am creating alternate paper pumpkin projects. So with past paper pumpkin videos that I have done, I have gotten such great feedback from all of you. And I always appreciate that, that you really like seeing the design process. You like seeing kind of the thoughts behind that, the process, the steps that I take. And the concept for this alternate was very, very simple. Adding a watercolor technique using the coordinating colors that Paper Pumpkin selected for this kit, and just doing it in a whole variety of colors. And this is an opportunity, if you do have re-inkers sitting around and you aren't using them, to really get those colors out and have a great time with it. I ended up doing multiple different color keys, which you will see. But here what I'm showing you is once the watercolor technique, the background is done, we're going to use elements from the kit to create our alternate card. I'm starting with a card base. I am adding this pattern stamp from the kit. I love this stamp. And we are creating that border edge. I am a huge fan of creating backgrounds and border edges, and you are going to be seeing that multiple times throughout this video. I just wanted a very slight border edge here because our layering piece is actually pretty big. So we don't need to focus on having all of the stamping all over the place. So here you can see that before I put the white piece down, it almost blends together. And I really wanted something bold and bright to stand out between the card base and our watercolor layer. You just really want to do that watercolor layer justice, right? So I decided to add in a piece of basic white. The project sheet will include all of the measurements for the cards. It will include all of the alternate products used. It will have, you know, pictures in there for each one of the cards. And I did my first project sheet for alternate paper pumpkin videos last month for the June kit, and you guys really enjoyed that. So I decided to do that again for anybody who is interested in that. So you can find the link for the project sheet in the description box of this video. Now, the ribbon that you're seeing here is that metallic in color ribbon. This is in Tahitian Tide. It's a very thin, really lightweight metallic ribbon. It has a lot of oomph for being such a thin piece of ribbon here. So I wrapped it multiple times. That is also a recurring element that I do with all of my alternate cards here. Now, you guys are probably going to want to order refills because these bottles are they're so fabulous. If you have the bottle stamp or the punch, there is a bundle in the annual catalog that this set was designed to coordinate with. So the paper pumpkin kit was designed to kind of fit with that kit, meaning that that stamp that has the message stamp on it, or the rolled up paper that goes inside that bottle, will also fit in the one in the annual catalog. So if you have that and you want to use that, that's great. But if you don't have that, you're either going to want to get refills, or you can turn the die cut piece into a stencil and just kind of create those bottles over and over again. So totally up to you. So there were coral elements, coral die cuts in this kit, and I am just kind of cutting my coral pieces apart so that it's kind of framing in my Sending Good Thoughts banner. And so far, all of the elements that you're seeing that are decorating this card are from the paper pumpkin kit, with the exception of the metallic ribbon. So you can really pull in a lot of those elements and you're going to be good to go. Now, I had made a very slight mistake. I had ink on my finger, and it kind of left two very faint impressions on my watercolor paper. So what I'm doing is pointing out some embellishments that you can use to hide it. And I was going to do the sequins, but I couldn't find them in my live. So I ended up using the iridescent rhinestones. So just know that you can, you know, always swap out your embellishments here. The other thing that I'm going to be using is the in color twine. So what I was just holding was the Starry Sky in color twine. But the in color twine comes as a pack of 5, the 2022-2024 in colors. And I ended up using Sweet Sorbet and Starry Sky. I don't think I used Tahitian Tide, but they're going to be really useful. Now, don't feel like you have to use twine outside of the kit, because the paper pumpkin team did include like a brown or a craft tone twine. So here was the most fun part of this card. I decided to make it look a little bit more interactive, and I cut into the wave so that I could tuck my bottle as if it looked like it was floating in the ocean. I absolutely love the way that it turned out. It was kind of a random thing, but it ended up looking so cute, you guys. So here is my favorite stamp of the kit, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot of people say that. This ship stamp is so fantastic. It's so cool. It's so visual. There are certain stamps that when you get them, you just think, I don't have anything like this. Like, I have nothing like this stamp. So now I'm stamping the Thinking of You, and that is also on a piece, a die cut piece from the kit. So there's lots to use in these kits. The value for what you get is so awesome. And just depending on what you have in your craft room, you know, you can really extend the life of your paper pumpkin kits with alternate cards. And that's a lot of times what we're showing you as demonstrators, that yes, of course, you can use your kit as a standalone, but there are so many fantastic and fun things that you can also do to extend the life of that kit, or to use it in different ways, because Paper Pumpkin is a kit that has a sort of element of surprise to it, where we get sneak peeks, but we don't see every single element that's in the kit until we get them. So once we get them, we may absolutely love it, or we might want to change something. And that is true of pretty much all card kits that are out there. So this is one of my absolute favorite things to do, is show you alternate ways. So what I did with this layer was I did the basic white backing again, and then I decided to put the whole layer at an angle again to kind of give the feel of rocking because of that ocean and those waves. And I also added that seagull. I popped the bottle up on dimensionals, and I popped the one corner of the waves that I cut up on dimensionals as well. And I love the way it turned out. So here I am adding the festive pearls in silver to those windows on the bottom of the ocean, on the bottom of the ship. And in the first one, I used the Tahitian Tide in colored dots. So just depending on what you want to do, there are so many different ways that you can incorporate your own embellishments to your alternate cards or to the original cards if you'd like to add a little more sparkle. Okay, so here I'm adding the iridescent rhinestones, and I'm going to kind of cover up those spots that I transferred ink accidentally to. And I decided to kind of go all around and create kind of like a sparkle effect all around the sentiment, sending good thoughts. So that's more than I would typically put on, but I thought it ended up looking really cute. So the first one has the sequins, the second one has the iridescent rhinestones, and you can see those options. So at this point, for the next 10 minutes of this video, it's going to be playing with all of the color combinations. So Poppy Parade is one of the colors in the kit, and that is the color that you're going to see here. Now, one thing I didn't get to talk too much about is that when you are doing watercolor layering, you can absolutely put color over color and then dry it as you go. I wanted my Poppy Parade to be very bold and very saturated. So I did 2 layers. I did an initial layer, I dried it, I put another layer over top, I dried it again, and you can certainly do that with watercolor. Now, this is a little bit more of a structured watercolor background where we're doing these lines, but just know that with watercoloring, you could do swirls, you could do the whole panel with one color, you can do layers, you can splatter. There are so many different things, and if you want to learn more about that, there are plenty of videos out there that you can see. The second color that I used was Sweet Sorbet. This next color that I'm getting into was Calypso Coral. Now, typically I was trying to go in order, but with this one, I went a little bit out of order. So instead of doing paper, listen to me, paper pumpkin, instead of doing pumpkin pie next, I went kind of out of sequence and I did a lighter color like Calypso Coral. Then I went back to pumpkin pie, and I have to tell you guys, of all of the colors that I used, of all of the re-inkers, pumpkin pie was the only one that gave me a problem on the watercolor paper, and I cannot explain to you why. I did, initially I thought it was because my brush wasn't wet enough, but that was not the case, because I did multiple versions of pumpkin pie just trying to figure out what the problem was. And I had the same problem every time. So if you are an experienced watercolor person and you see what's happening there and you know what that is, let me know. I did this so many different times and I could not fix it. It just kind of has that stained look, like that really intense color look with paper pumpkin. I mean, oh my gosh, you guys, with pumpkin pie. But all of the other colors blended so smoothly. And that last color there is Mango Melody. So I just left the texture element there. I didn't want to, throw those panels away. And, the truth is when you add all of your, your decorative elements and your die cuts and your layers and your stamps, by the time you're all said and done, I don't think anybody's going to be looking that closely. But I will admit to you that it did bother me that I could not get a smooth, color with pumpkin pie. So just be warned if that's a color that you use. I'm going to, play with it a little bit more and see if I can fix it. So I started to feel guilty about my painter's tape being so thick. So I decided to cut it in half. And I'm only showing you this the one time, me cutting it into half strips, just so that you understand what I did differently, because you can see that the painter's tape that I happened to have in the house was really thick. And we just don't need, we just don't need tape that thick. It's a lot of tape to throw away because you can reuse it, but the watercolor paint kind of stays wet on the painter's tape, even when you hit it with the heat tool. It dries perfectly on the watercolor paper, but it stays messy on that painter's tape. So you can either wipe the painter's tape down, which I tried doing a couple of times so I could reuse it. In the end, I just decided cutting it into thinner strips and then pitching it because it was just getting too complicated and too messy. So you can do what you think, but it was definitely a learning curve for me creating these panels and these backgrounds. So this is my purple panel. I started with Fresh Freesia, which is an accent color in the kit. I added Highland Heather. This is Gorgeous Grape, this third color here that you see me adding now. And then I did decide to add in Rich Razzleberry and Blackberry Bliss. I do consider them part of the family, but they have a little bit more of a red tone to them as opposed to Gorgeous Grape, right? So they're still in the family, but they do have like a different sort of purple tone look to them. So I did love how this panel ended up looking in the end. And of course, you guys know how deep of a color Blackberry Bliss is. And I did layer Blackberry Bliss as well. So I loved how this one turned out. You guys can let me know what your favorite color combination was in the comments if you do watch this part of the video, you know, along with me. But it was so fun to see the different color combinations turn out. Now, I didn't do every color combination that we have in our Stampin' Up! Collection, but I did a bunch. I really tried to stay true to the kit with the exception of the Halloween panel that you'll see in the end. So here, because Fresh Freesia was an element in the kit and a pretty big element, you know, we have the card base, we have the layering pieces, we have the coral. I thought I'm just going to run with that. So that's why I did the panels in purple. Of course, did the panels in blue because of the ocean. Did the panels in red and orange because Poppy Parade is also a really strong color in the kit. And then I also, like, I did not do green, for example. I did not do brown, you know, but you certainly could. And then I did do a pink panel, which I was going back and forth with if I should do that, but I kind of couldn't resist the thought of using Calypso Coral because this was an ocean kit. So this is the pink panel, and I really struggle with Blushing Bride, let me correct myself, as a pink, because as you guys can see here, it pulls so much brown. But when you get everything on the same panel together, it starts to kind of come back to that pink zone. It's still a very neutral pink. It is not what I would consider a true pink. But when you're adding it with Calypso Coral and Mango Melody and Polished Pink, then you can kind of see that gradation, but definitely not a perfect pink combination, but still beautiful. And it almost looks like sand to me, Blushing Bride. Like it almost has like a sandy look to it. And of course we do have Sahara sand, which is definitely more true to a sand tone. But when you're thinking about a beach theme and you're looking at this color combination, that was ultimately what I saw. So this ended up being the pink panel and the pink color combination. Now, one thing that you guys aren't seeing that I do want to mention to you was that between panels, this was, oh, that's where I tore my corner, you guys. So that was the only time I had a problem with the painter's tape. Every other time was totally fine. But what you guys aren't seeing is that I am changing out the water between every panel. I am wiping down the surface. I'm cleaning off that, what are those? The self-healing mat. I'm cleaning off the self-healing mat. I'm switching out my paper towels. I'm cleaning off the clear blocks between adding my colors. I'm cleaning off the brushes. So this is a process. And I really thought about skipping this part, like not, you know, including this part in the video. But for those of you who tell me that you really truly do seeing the whole design process, that's why I kept it in. And that's why I decided to keep all of the different color panels in, because you can get a sense that even though this is a very simple technique and it's such a fun technique, and it lets you use so many products that maybe normally you wouldn't, so many different colors, so many different re-inkers, right? But you get a feel for the process, right? So we know that we're stopping in between each panel, we're drying it, we're wiping things down. we're cleaning our brush in between colors. So just so that you understand when you're doing those elements, like you could do this all day and it's so much fun, but you can see it's a little bit messy too. I ended up, on multiple different occasions, like I had color on my fingers. So just make sure you keep a wipe for your hands, that's separate from what you're using to clean with your brush. Now here is kind of like a random side note that I wanted to add to this video. You can use the empty die cuts. So you can use the negative of the die cut. So once you actually use those coral positive pieces, you can save those die cut sheets that have the leftover frames for stencils. Now here's what I would recommend if you're going to use this as a stencil. Make sure that your ink pad is re-inked. Make sure your ink pad is nice and juicy, because if it isn't, you're going to be there for 6 years. The other thing is you want to dab and not rub. Now, if you really want to create a true stencil from images in your paper pumpkin kit or from the negative panels of the die cuts, then you can, use a laminator and kind of trim out, that piece, but that's pretty complicated. So just know you can use the die cut piece, but you don't want to rub, you just want to dab. So at this point, I am getting into the design elements of each card. And again, because I was trying to go with different color families like reds, oranges, and yellows for one, blues and greens for another, I tried to stay true to that with the pieces for each card as well. So the red seahorse for the red background, the Poppy Parade ink for the stamps. I did bring in a specialty element here. So from the, I will list it because I can't think of what it's called at this moment. But that die cut piece there is from an annual catalog product, and I cut it in gold glitter paper. So again, that will be listed on the project sheet as I'm doing the voiceover. I don't have the catalog in front of me, and I can't remember the name of that die set, but if you can think of it, I think it's called Texture Chic. If you can think of it, you can leave me a comment, but I will have it for sure on the project sheet when I'm, going through and listing everything. So here you can see I'm doing that multiple wrap element for the twine. Again, the concept here was texture, texture, texture. I think that when I think of the ocean and when I think of the sea and when I think of the imagery and all of that, I really think about textural elements when it comes to the ocean, and you really want to give that feel and that vibe. I did opposite corners just to try to add like some slight framing there, not too much. But those were two separate die cut pieces. One is a whole panel in the center, and then one was a panel that I cut into, I think it was thirds. And I put the other piece aside and used two of them on this card. Popping this up on dimensionals. There is a really adorable seahorse stamp in the kit that I used just on one side, kind of as a border. And then that anchor stamp is actually from Hope and Prayer. I thought that was such a beautiful anchor stamp. And then this, of course, die cut seahorse is also from the kit. Sending Good Thoughts was stamped in Poppy Parade just under that wrap twine. And that is the first card. So in terms of the design process, that's pretty much it for me. So I do show you the way that I did the other cards as well. And you can see here, I'm kind of going into the purple theme and the purple panel. So that is the card base from the kit. That's the layer from the kit. But I thought that in the Fresh Freesia version, it just looked like it blended too much. So I flipped it over so that we were seeing the embossed white side and used that as my layer with the circle piece and with the coral element. Now with this one, I decided to keep the coral intact, just this big, fabulous die cut. I can't recommend using that enough. If you guys really want to use that textural Fresh Freesia side, go for it. For me, I thought that the white side was more effective with this particular card layout, but again, totally up to you. Now here is that metallic in the Sweet Sorbet, which honestly looks more pink than red in the metallic ribbon. doing the multiple wrap. Again, I happen to wrap this one too tight, so you can see my paper's bowing a little bit. So I ended up rewrapping it because sometimes you can, sometimes you can wiggle it out and sometimes it's just wrapped too tight and you have to redo it. So it happens sometimes, but it's not hard to unwrap and rewrap. And then you'll see this card being assembled here. I did use a stamp from the kit in Fresh Freesia ink. So let me talk to you for a minute about what's going on with Celebration right now. I am doing the voiceover for this on July 23rd. Celebration with Stampin' Up is a promotion that is running from July to August 31st. So it started July 1st and it ends August 31st. Celebration is a way that you can earn free product when you spend qualifying amounts. So if you spend $50 before tax, or if you spend $100 before tax, or any varying combination of that, 150, 200, 250, you qualify for Celebration rewards in this brochure that we have called the Celebration brochure. And you can choose between stamps and paper and die cuts. We've actually already lost one of the pieces because they're while supplies last. But if you are interested in doing prepaid paper pumpkin kits, 3, 6, or 12 months, you will qualify for Celebration rewards. I do have a link in the description of this video that you can go to paperpumpkin.com or you can go to stampinup.com and it will show you, if you go to menu, you could go to either kits or paper pumpkin kits, and then it will give you prepaid options there. And you can just purchase your prepaid options. You'll get to choose your Celebration item right there. And then you use that code that you purchased and you plug it into your Paper Pumpkin account at paperpumpkin.com. So just in case you have any questions about that, or if you need any help with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. You can either email me or message me. You can always leave me a comment, but it's probably better to just contact me directly if you need answers to specific questions. Now here I'm doing that border frame again. This is a star background stamp element, also from the kit. I'm stamping it in Calypso Coral all the way around. And what I like to do when I'm creating borders, and I did this multiple times throughout this process, is I'll do an initial round and then I go back through and I fill in just in certain areas wherever I feel like there still needs to be pattern. So typically I'll do 2 rounds, sometimes I'll do 3 rounds, just until it looks like it's nice and full. So here I did use a stamp from that stamp set, and again I will have that listed on the product sheet that has that vintage bottle. I used the sentiment overflowing with happiness, which as you can see fits perfectly on the die cut bottle. I believe this is the medium size bottle. Now initially what I was trying to do with this leftover piece was see if I could create the look of sand, and I really did not feel like I was pulling that off, so I decided to kind of reposition things. Now, also as part of that die set from Texture Chic, they have either stamped, you could do an option of stamped seashells, or you could do die cut seashells. And what you're seeing is die cut seashells in that distressed gold paper, that specialty paper, that I decided to add it as elements on this card as well, because as we're bringing in those different elements of the ocean, I wanted to kind of bring in those themes in different ways. So we don't have seashells on every card, but we have them on some, just so that you have that variety there. Now the card that you see sitting off to the side, I ended up not finishing before this video was over. So I don't have a final card for that coral piece that I created that pattern with. And I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to mention that while I'm seeing it on screen. I had it in line to finish, but I just ran out of time. So I'll have to post that at a different time. But you can see I wanted to add 3 seashells around this bottle somehow, and I was just trying to get my positioning. And you guys can let me know if this happens with you too. I was working in a different spot than my usual craft room, and I did not have all my tools with me, so I ended up using my fingertip to add this glue. So if you're like, why is she using her finger? I just wanted to mention why. And I did that offset top and bottom again, but just in a different way on this card as well, because I really loved that look. And then I'm just really trying to, I'm struggling to figure out that third seashell. And the reason that I was struggling so much was because of the positioning of the ribbon. I couldn't decide if I wanted it under, over, if I wanted to try to put it on a die cut or a dimensional, or if I wanted to leave it flat. So this happens sometimes when you're doing card layouts, and you can let me know in the comments if that happens to you too. But I do like to do design elements of 3 when I can. So now I'm taking this last bottle that I have of all of the die cuts that I use for my cards, and I'm stamping this ship in Memento Tuxedo Black, and I'm going to create a Halloween card with it. So when I saw that ship, it was the first thing I thought of. I will include the name of this ribbon because it is escaping me at the moment. This is such cool textured ribbon. And I decided to do a layer on each color panel here. So I ended up doing 3 layers total. But I wanted to do some type of a Halloween card. And if you guys are trying to think of ways that you can create Halloween cards without having official Halloween products, then here's an idea for you. You know, if you want to watercolor a background and take some stamps, maybe that are from everyday kits, but could potentially be a Halloween theme like pirates, then you can do this. So with this, I was really trying to stay as close to the kit as I could. Oh, Season of Chic is the name of the stamp set, you guys. Texture Chic is the name of the bundle. So I decided to use one of the texture stamps from that stamp set to create this background. I wanted it to look, you know, kind of scary and messy. And I'm doing that clockwise, you know, pattern again. And now here is a very good example of adding that fill. Now keep in mind, this is a splatter stamp, so you can kind of, you know, really go crazy with it. You don't need any specific spots because it's splatter. And I did end up going 3 rounds on that particular piece before adding my layer. I decided to pop the layer up on dimensionals, and then you'll see again with the design element, I was trying to decide where and how I wanted to place my die cut pieces. The other thing that I struggled with this card was if I should bring in official Halloween elements or if I should try to stick with what I had available to me. And I ended up going with, you know, sticking to what I had available to me. Now, let me take a moment while I'm finishing up this card to talk about the starter kit promotion that is also happening during celebration. From now until August 31st, while supplies last, you can actually get the Making Plans collection for free when you purchase the starter kit from Stampin' Up. So if you know you are going to spend more than $99 on crafts over this holiday season, really consider this option because it is such a fantastic value and savings. You get an 18-month planner, a stamp set for the planner, stickers, you get all of the dividers, 18 months worth of inserts, you know, through the end of 2023. Absolutely fantastic to consider, not to mention the fact that you save $26 in product value and you get free shipping on your starter kit. It is such an incredible deal. And if you have any questions about that, you can let me know. The other thing to keep in mind is that once you are a demonstrator, you can do this just for the hobby. You don't have to do it as a business, but you also save 20% on purchases. And yes, you still can get celebration items. Now, the starter kit is its own promotion, so you cannot get celebration rewards with your starter kit because you're already getting the Making Plans collection for free and you're saving that $26 plus the free shipping. But once you're a demonstrator, when you place your first order, you can qualify for celebration rewards, save that 20%. And depending on if you hit that qualifying amount of 50 or more, you can also get celebration items as a demonstrator. Okay, so here we are. Here are our finished cards. I really hope that you enjoyed today's alternate paper pumpkin card ideas. Please leave me a comment. Let me know. Be sure to subscribe, like, share, anything that you do like that for YouTube lets them know that you like videos like this. Liking these videos lets me know that you like videos like this, and I'll know to do more of them.